Not having a good pitch video to me, I feel like is the ones I've seen, I'm like, I would never donate to that because the video wasn't good. Whether it was the production value or just the pitch wasn't good. I just didn't feel like it was a compelling enough story or, you know, that kind of stuff.
If you have a really fantastic crowdfunding video and it's, you know, pulling at people's heartstrings, the only reason they're not contributing, well, I'll say this. Number one is maybe that's a fantastic pitch video by someone's standards, but not by the standards of the audience that are actually there for the movie. So there's that piece. But if it really is like an exceptional crowdfunding video, I've never seen an exceptional crowdfunding video. No, one time I did. Actually, one time on Seed and Spark, probably still the best crowdfunding video I've ever seen in my life. And the campaign went nowhere, and that's because they did zero outreach and nobody saw it, right? So you can't just make an excellent crowdfunding video and put it on a website and hope that somebody sees it.
You found a great one.
I found this great project that I backed, and I tweeted about it, and I went back a couple of days later and they didn't have any more backers. And I went back a couple of weeks later and they didn't have any more backers. And I was like, that means to me that they didn't even put in the effort to con their friends into backing their project, which means that maybe they should look into how crowdfunding works some more and try again.
I think there's projects that I thought were going to get funded because they're so inspiring and they're so magical. And you know, this photographer person wanted to put together this amazing travel blog about different photography things, and it was just like really interesting to me. I put in my $10, but you know, she needed like 200 people to do that, and it didn't quite catch on fire. And you wonder, like, well, how do these catch on fire? What leads something to be okay? We made 100% of our goal. Sometimes you're just shocked and you're like, what happened?
Mostly it's just trying to get the word out and trying to get people to repost it, retweet, and that sort of thing. Because it's really eyeballs, getting eyeballs on the project, on the video. Because if they like the video,
well, definitely the quality of the video. I mean, everyone says that. You know, is it framed correctly? Like filmmaking 101 that a lot of people, you know, here they're asking for money to make a movie, but their Kickstarter video like doesn't have proper framing. The framing is weird, or you know, they don't have good sound or good audio, or the edits aren't smooth, or they only have one angle. They don't decide to like cover it from multiple angles. Stuff like that. And sort of a vision, like I get a sense of what they're trying to do and why they build up a compelling reason as to why I should why I should be part of it. And I think a lot of it has to do with sort of a vision, the style of the video. I think that's a big part of it, you know. Does it feel like its own little thing in its own? Does it have a beginning, a middle, and an end? You know, is it, you know, do they have a visual sense of telling a story? Because the Kickstarter video is a story. You know, you're telling a story in 3 minutes as to who you are, what you need, what you've done. If they can do that, then I see a lot of Kickstarter videos that aren't stories. They don't have an arc, and that's what I try to do in my campaign a little bit. And I'm realizing I, you know, could have done things better. But
so in a nutshell, then, good crowdfunders script their crowdfunding videos.
Oh, I did. I had a whole. I scripted mine weeks in advance, man. I mean, I was walking in like I was an actor almost. Like you know, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I wasn't going to wing it. Mm-hmm. And I actually had a script girl on the other side who was helping me with, you know, hey, you missed this point or you missed this, and wow. I didn't trust myself as far as making sure, because you know you have like 3 pages of text to get through, of dialogue.
We've put a couple months in on the video, and part of it, one thing I recognized with Kickstarter that was very, very clear is that you have to have the personal touch. It's the person, the individual saying, hi, this is who I am, I really would like your help. It's usually one person, whether it's Double Fine or Amanda Palmer, it's usually the one-on-one. And fortunately, I was a commentator on Morning Edition for 3 years, long ago, and I've done a lot of media interviews, and so I'm very comfortable with that, and I think that helped. But also, in my campaign, it was me as a person, but it was also, this is the body of work I've done, and then the third part is, this is the team I've assembled, and it's an amazing team, and then it was the special effects shots that we were generating fresh, saying this is what we're doing is going to look like. So it wasn't just, you can look at our work from the past, but there's no telling what we're going to do now. here's something very concrete that we generated new, specific to this project. And that was very important, because otherwise people are going to be dubious. But if you say, okay, look at this, if you like this, if you like these effect shots, if you like these actors who we're going to be casting, then you get a pretty good idea about what we're up to.
Number one, the most important thing is to start from a place of passion. I think I would not have had a successful Kickstarter campaign. We wouldn't have had a successful Kickstarter campaign if we weren't truly 100% passionate about the film. Because your passion, I think, will come through in any type of promotion you do. Video, to me, seems like the biggest no-brainer of all time for filmmakers. But a lot of filmmakers, for whatever reason, either they're gun-shy about getting on camera, or they don't want to come off as, arrogant or pompous, or what all the typical ways that people like to think of crazy filmmakers. The truth is, if you care enough about your project to sweat blood and tears to get it done, you should care enough to tell people why. And I think that if you start from a place of honesty and passion in however you're communicating, you'll already be ahead of the pack. I think the mistake that I see a lot of indie filmmakers make when they start making some sort of tape is that they'll try to maybe like ape or copy a different campaign that was successful. But that may be completely inappropriate for what it is they're doing, and more often than not, you watch a filmmaker and you go, "Who cares?" I don't care. And I bet you a lot of the filmmakers, when they watch that own tape, it probably doesn't move them. But I think if you start from a place of honesty and you create something that's as real as the movie you made in the first place, something as personal and cool and quirky and interesting as your own work, people are going to respond. And I mean, listen, I'm a big sap, but when I watch our Kickstarter video, I still tear up. And yes, part of it is because I have to admit that I look that goofy on camera, but part of it is because I really do it. The journey meant so much to us that it was impossible not to be passionate when we talked about it. So I think my first tip would be start from a place of honesty and passion.
What's your second tip?
I'm getting it in order. Oh. I know what it is. I know what my second tip is, but go ahead. I thought you might want to expand.
Expand on the passion? No, I absolutely agree. We're working with some filmmakers now who are doing a documentary called Journey Through Fire. And they actually came in, and one of the video things that they're doing, which I thought was really nice, is they're talking to different filmmakers and having them almost pitch the film, where, you know what I mean, what is it that inspired them about the film, or what is it that inspires them about the project, which I think, again, to the passion, that it's not just a filmmaker's passion, but to show that the film has inspired a passionate response in others, I think definitely helps in terms of having, testimonials, within the pitch video, which is not something we did. But I saw them doing it just recently.
We did different kinds of testimonials.
Right, yeah. But for them, it really. They're still in the editing process. They don't have their film finished yet. We saw rough cuts and little bits and pieces, and found out about the stories and all of that. But again, it's speaking to the passion. It's just, what's your passion? If I'm an audience member and you're the filmmaker, of course you're passionate about your project. But to see somebody else get passionate about your project who's not necessarily connected to it in any way, that's intriguing. And then I go, oh, what is in your project that sparks their passion? Then that may also then spark mine.
And I think one idea that you're hitting on there that I do think is important, if you're lucky enough to have it, is social proof. Basically proof that there is a love of your project outside your own love. Because of course you love it, or you wouldn't have, spent all your money and all your time making it. We were so lucky that when we played our initial festivals, that we were not only winning, but we were getting standing ovations, and we brought cameras with us to the screenings in hopes of gathering some type of audience reaction. It far exceeded our expectations, but being able to show people, look, our film is receiving one standing ovation after another, and people in the lobby are unable to contain themselves, and they're crying and talking about the film, and this is what real people are saying about the movie, I think lent a lot of credibility, and it also made people feel good about supporting the film, whether it was donating or watching or deciding to buy a ticket. It's like, well, there's other people in the world are being moved by this movie. That not only says to me that it's good, it also says to me this is something I want to be a part of. am I missing out by not seeing this film? Is it, would my life, maybe be touched like that person's life was touched if I took the time to go see it? Or not all movies need to be touching. It could be a comedy. Am I going to have that much fun at the movies? Is it worth me going to escape for a few hours? So I do think that if you can hint at social proof in any kind of pitch you do for anything, just proving that there's a more universal, attractiveness to your project, I do think that'll help. The next point that I think is really important, and I think this speaks to, again, it doesn't matter if you're making a movie, if you're selling widgets, if you're trying to get booked to give speeches, whatever. I think you have to know your audience. It's really important to know that audience and to speak to them. And I don't think that necessarily mean, a lot of people will go, oh, well, who's your audience? And then they'll automatically start breaking it down into demographics. I don't think that necessarily works as well for independent filmmakers. I mean, yes, it's important to know in general, this movie is going to appeal to men more than women or vice versa. But a lot of times indie filmmakers fall into this weird in-between place because we're making something that's different and it doesn't necessarily fit one specific mold. So I think you want to figure out how to appeal to certain pieces of everybody. I mean, I think we all have, in the case of Dying to Do Letterman, I think we all have an underdog spirit. No matter who you are, no matter if you're a man or woman, no matter what age you are, all of us at some point in our lives have been the underdog or rooted for an underdog. And that was something we worked really hard to tap into when we reached out. And that was not only reflected in our video, which very clearly said, no one wanted us to make this movie, which was true. People said it was a horrible idea to shoot the film. People thought we were crazy to invest our money in it. I mean, we were underdogs. Steve's story is a major underdog story. So by saying to people, look, we're underdogs, be part of our underdog story, I think that helped them relate to the movie. I think if you can find something that's universal in your film and think of that as your demographic. What's my demographic? It's underdogs. We all have a little piece of the underdog in us. So in a way, it makes it easier to focus your message, like you're tapping into that essence as opposed to I'm just going for the 18 to 39-year-old male, which probably if you're an independent filmmaker, you probably don't fit a category quite so sharply, unless you set out to make a commercial film, which is a whole different business plan altogether. So.
One we applaud.
What's that?
One worth of plot.
Oh, I listen. I think yes. Well, that's a whole side note. I think unfortunately, a lot of independent filmmakers get lumped into, well, you can only make one kind of movie, which is not true. An independent filmmaker is a person that goes and makes a movie with their own money because no one else will pay for it. I think that if someone went out and they did their independent version of Armageddon, God bless them. I'd support them 100%. I do think there's a bias against young aspiring filmmakers who tend to make stuff that appeals to the masses as opposed to niche audiences. So for the record, I completely support anybody and applaud anybody who has the gumption to finish a movie. And if your movie happens to be Armageddon or a horror movie or a comedy and it doesn't fit your typical, festival model, I don't think people should care. I think you should be applauded for finishing your film in the first place. So that's a whole rant for another day.
And how important was it for you to make it personal? Because I like how you talk about in your Kickstarter video, Alton, Illinois, and you talk about the different, I think it was the world's tallest man.
Yeah, and Miles Davis.
Yeah, exactly. So you personalize it, you let us get to know who you are, where you're from.
Right.
How important was that?
That was extremely important because I go back to Alton, I take a lot of pride in the community. But I think a big thing was that I'm a big advocate of Midwest filmmakers and Midwest artists, and to say, hey, I'm from Alton, you never heard of Alton, this is what Alton is known for, and I really want the community of Alton to come out and support the Kickstarter campaign. There's 30,000 people live in Alton and all the peripheral cities, East Alton and Bethalto and Godfrey, all these, it's the River Bend community. And I want to get the River Bend community behind in the buck. And I'm struggling to do that because not enough people know about it. So, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that crowdfunding, while it's popular to people like us who are involved in social media, you go to the middle of America, you say the word Kickstarter, they think you're talking about a part on a motorcycle or something. They don't, people that live in LA and New York and even Chicago, we're all isolated in all this social media. Really, we're in a bubble compared to middle America. So I think I'm trying to penetrate that sense of what it means, and they're just not familiar enough. So that's been my major obstacle. I think if I was from a bigger city, it would be different.
It's way too long. Always that's the problem. You know, people have such a short attention span. You got to sell this thing in 2 minutes. You know, I just can't do it. I mean, this video is probably the longest video out there on Kickstarter, but I don't care. I just feel it just conveys the journey and the emotion. And, you know, and it's designed, I hope, in a way where after 2 minutes people can get it. And if they don't want to watch the whole thing, they can just stop and still, you know, get what the whole story is about.
I don't know who wrote the handbook and disseminated it behind my back that says the first thing that happens in a crowdfunding pitch video is you should sit in front of the camera and talk at people. Like, we are in a visual medium, and we're always told in our scripts and in our films to show, not tell, and then we do a crowdfunding pitch video and all we do is tell. So here's my favorite crowdfunding pitch video blooper, right? Hi, my name is Emily Best. I'm gonna actually do it this way. Hi, my name is Emily Best, and if this were really one, I would have bad sound right now. So I have lousy sound. Hi, my name is Emily Best. I'm the writer, director, lead actor, and producer of Danger in Downtown LA. Danger in Downtown LA is a terrifying thriller starring me, a woman. That's like not totally typical. And we have this incredible script and this amazing cast of people who you will meet and talk to in a minute. But I really want you to get a sense of like what the film is gonna feel like. So here's our cinematographer who's going to talk to you about why this is going to be a good film. And then you're gonna talk to the cinematographer for a little bit, and then you'll talk to a couple of the actors, and then you'll come back and they'll be like, so, you know, we're totally broke, you know, indie filmmaking, we don't have any money, we really need your money, that's the most important thing that we could ask of you, so donate now. And thanks, bye, we're gonna make a really scary film for you.
I've seen that video.
We've all seen this video, and they're like, I think it's good. I'm like, by what standard? If your movie is, okay, I have so many things to say about it. First, if you put nothing else on the internet, put this on the internet. Do not ask for help with a donation. Because by and large, unless you are backed by a 501c3, asking for a donation is factually incorrect, right? The tone of your campaign should be asking someone to join what you are offering with a contribution. That means you are making a contribution and they are making a contribution, and together you're going to make something magnificent, okay? That tone has to permeate everything in your crowdfunding campaign. I am offering you such a kick-ass opportunity to join this thing that's gonna be so exciting. Strap on your seatbelts, this rocket is taking off, let's do this together. Like, you be the fuel, I'll be the rocket and you be the fuel, right? That's kind of what we're talking about. So the first thing is, if you are going to make a film, let's say called Danger in Downtown LA, I don't know if that film exists, but I'm making one up for these purposes. For no money at all, you could take this lovely Canon 5D or even your iPhone and make it feel found footage-y. And now this neighborhood gets very dark at night and the lighting is very weird. And now I'm over the shoulder of a woman, I can tell because her breathing is deep. And we're walking down and it's an alleyway and it's kind of unsteady. And you hear something and it seems like maybe somebody's just run behind you, and you turn around and there's nothing there. And then you turn back and the music kind of comes in. You can find tons of free, creepy music out there. If you have a friend with a keyboard, they can create something for you. And then all of a sudden there's a crash and a smash, and the woman and the camera are down on the ground, and the breathing is heavy, and you don't know what happens, and hi, my name is Emily Best. That was the first little snippet of Danger in Downtown LA. We have an incredible cast and crew lined up. I want to show you first what our cinematographer is capable of. And then you spend, 12 or 15 seconds with all of the cool other stuff that your cinematographer has done, and maybe a cut of a few things that your actors have been in, if you don't have time to shoot something sort of native. There is the whole point is that if you're going to make a small movie, a pitch video, 90 seconds usually, about why somebody should get involved with this much longer movie you're proposing to make. Your small movie has to be good and in the tone and demonstrate that you are capable of making the thing that you are promising on the long run. And if you can't make a 90-second video basically for free that gets people super excited, maybe you shouldn't be making the longer movie. Sorry.